Namaskaram. We are continuing with the Mahabharata story of Vasuki, Takshaka going towards Pareekshit with the aim of biting him, and on the way he's meeting the Kashyapa Brahmin, who demonstrated his power to nullify Takshaka's poison. So Takshaka sending him away with lots of gifts, money, and from there Takshaka continued his journey where Pareekshit was staying under protection. It was a well-guarded place, and Takshaka sent his followers first in the guise of some sages carrying fruits for the king to break his fast. He was on fast for 7 days, and he listening to stories from the epics, stories from the Srimad Bhagavatam. That was the context in which Srimad Bhagavata was formalized. Sri Shukabrahma Rishi, on Pareekshit's request, narrated the story of Bhagavatam, Krishna's story, in 7 days. So on the 7th day, by the evening, he had finished and the sun was about to set, and Pareekshit and others, they all had sighs of relief, because he survived 7 days and the sun was about to set. So, and there was no immediate threat from anyone. So Pareekshit was ready to break his fast. It was then these sages came there carrying some fruits in plates. So Pareekshit gladly, the gods sent them because they were sages and they were only carrying fruits for the king. So he took one fruit from one plate and asked the ministers and others to share. They looked like very fresh, ripe fruits and very appealing. And Pareekshit took one and cut it. And then he found a small worm in it, a dark worm. And Pareekshit was, after 7 days tension, he was so relieved that he was in a jovial mood. So he loudly said, "Oh, now let the sage who cursed me have some satisfaction. Let me call you Takshaka, and you bite me, so that the sage's words don't go in vain." So Pareekshit took the worm with his fingers and put it on his neck, asking it to bite him, because a bite from a worm would cause no harm. And immediately that worm turned out to be Takshaka, a huge, dark, shining serpent with a large hood, and with a loud hiss, it hit the Pareekshit several times with full force. And it was such a bite that Pareekshit immediately fell down, turned blue because of the poison, and immediately he also died. And there was none to treat him, because the only person who could was sent away by Takshaka. And that was how the end of Pareekshit came. A very sad story, because the mistake, the sin made by Pareekshit was nothing compared to the punishment. The punishment was too severe for what he did. But anyway, it looks unfair, but there are stories in Puranas like that. Generally, the sages give punishment in relation to the crime. For example, Yamadharma was cursed by Animandavya. We went through that story, saying that for a sin, so small a sin I committed when I was a child, you are punishing me so severely. He was pierced by a, what is it called, a shulam, a javelin, and he was stuck there for days together. And what he did was simply, his sin was he pierced, small thorns on some worms. So there was no comparison. But so the curse was that the punishment was nothing compared to the sin I made. So it seems that the Brahmin is telling, Animandavya is telling Yamadharma that you have not learned the justice properly. You should be born on earth and you should learn the laws of justice fresh. And that was the curse. And he was born as Vidura. But here it is, the curse was too severe. Pareekshit, a noble king, lost his life. Pareekshit at that time had a young son by name Janamejaya. So the ministers and priests made Janamejaya conduct the ritual ceremonies of cremation, which was done, and he was anointed the future emperor, because the land cannot survive without a ruler. So the ministers would do the administration and all that, but in king's place there must be a proper heir. So Janamejaya was made the heir and future king. And the daughter of the king of Kashi by name Suvarnavarma, of the Kashi king by name Suvarnavarma, was brought as bride for Janamejaya, and their marriage was duly conducted. Now the Pareekshit's end by Takshaka's bite is done, and now Pareekshit's hair is on the throne. Meanwhile, we are continuing with the story of Vasuki, who is the king of serpents, worried about the curse from Kadru that so many of the serpents didn't follow her command to cheat Vinata by clinging on to the tail of Uchaishravas, the white horse which came out of the ocean while churning for Amritam. And Vasuki heard that there was a prophecy that sage Jaralkaru will get a son by name Astika, who will save most of the serpents from death in the sacrificial fire. So Vasuki was searching who would be who is that Jaralkaru and how will that come about. And we are going into that story. So this sage Jaralkaru, the epic only says that he is from a family called Yayavara. I haven't heard about it elsewhere. The family of Yayavara, he was born Jaralkaru, a sage who was interested only in meditation. So he went into forest, spent years meditating, and then he traveled to other forests. Wherever he found suitable place for meditation, he went into deep meditation. He followed severe vows like fasting, not speaking, even reducing drinking water. And he became very thin and looked emancipated. And one day, Jaralkaru came across a banyan tree on which, on one branch, several people were hanging head down. And the tree itself was about to collapse because a rat was eating away the roots. So Jaralkaru asked them, who are you? Why are you staying like this? Then they said, we are ancestors and we are not getting salvation because the only progeny in the family is by name Jaralkaru. He refuses to marry, and hence we have no salvation. And we will leave it here. The time is over. We shall continue next day. Namaskaram.